Notice how our Lord states, if you belong to the world would love you as its own. So we are in the world, we live in the world, but we are called to be otherworldly. And we are also called to proclaim the truths of our faith, the truths of the whole meaning of our existence. We are called to speak out against wrongdoing, which of course is a good. And as Christians, we practice great charity, and yet the world hates us. We don't desire to harm anyone or to hurt anyone. We desire to do good. We desire to proclaim the truth, and yet the world hates us. Why? Because they don't want to be convicted of sin. They don't want somebody telling them that something is wrong. See, deep down, they know that it's wrong. If they just thought we were crazy kooks who were just, making up our own beliefs, like, in other words, if there was no foundation for the things that we say, they wouldn't be bothered by it. But they are bothered by it. So deep down, they must know what the truth really is. All the more reason for us to proclaim the truth. But it's also a reminder to us that we need to accept opposition. We need to accept the reality that we will be opposed. And we shouldn't be afraid of the persecution, whatever may result from that, even if it's our martyrdom, because we're doing it out of charity. We're doing it for the good of souls, to save souls. So as Catholics, we are not politically correct. It's a fact. And we need to accept that fact also. It's interesting. Today is the feast of Our Lady of Fatima. And it's just a memorial, but I think, or an optional memorial, but it should be a great feast, because when we consider the Marian apparitions that have taken place, Fatima is one of the greatest. The miracle of the sun, witnessed by over 70,000 people. And the messages of Fatima also regarding the Second World War and how that was fulfilled, the strange light in the sky that Our Lady predicted would happen just before the war would broke out. And all of these things have taken place. All of these things kind of put the stamp of approval on Fatima more so than any other apparition. It's in other words, it's an extremely great apparition. And the messages of Our Lady of Fatima are also extremely important. They reiterate the essential truths of our faith, including the reality of hell, the existence of hell. And the children of Fatima, when they had a vision of hell, they didn't just see hell, they saw human souls being cast into hell. In other words, human beings go to hell, because there are some people who say, they don't go to hell, maybe they're just going to be annihilated. In other words, there is no hell. Well, that's false. Our Lady of Fatima has revealed the truth. Actually, it's God through Our Lady. In other words, God sent Our Lady, because it's only with God's permission that Our Lady could have done these things. So many essential truths of our faith are reiterated, especially belief in our Lord's true presence in the Eucharist, and that was with the angel, the angel of Portugal, which is Saint Michael, and that happened the year before the apparitions of Our Lady of Fatima began, but it's associated with the apparitions of Our Lady of Fatima. Now, if you recall, one of the things that Our Lady of Fatima requested and spoke about is Russia. So she requested the consecration of Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And she warned that Russia will spread her errors throughout the world. And this consecration of Russia would help prevent the spread of these errors. But what's interesting is that, I was talking about political correctness. It's kind of like Our Lady of Fatima is somewhat politically incorrect, even within the church. In other words, when Our Lady specifically asked that on a certain date, or before a certain date, that the messages, the third secret of Fatima be revealed, it was not done. The popes had not done it. It was done much later. And some question, was the fullness of the third secret fully revealed? Not only that, when she asked for the consecration of Russia, for the Pope to do that in union with all the bishops, to command all the bishops to join in doing that, and she said it has to be done by a certain date, or she said it's time to do it now. It wasn't done. Now, recently, as you know, with Pope Francis, there was an effort to do it. And once again, not all the bishops participated. Not all the bishops were commanded to do it. Was it really done in such a way that it was acceptable to God, to Our Lady? And many say that no, it wasn't done properly. So what are these errors of Russia? You know, Russia right now, there's war between Russia and Ukraine. And is this what Our Lady was referring to? No. So the errors of Russia began much, much earlier, and they kind of reached their height in 1917, right when Our Lady of Fatima was appearing. The Bolshevik Revolution took place. Communism was established. The communists took power. And what did they do once they gained power? They suppressed the people, and they murdered so many people, and they starved people to death. And you know, some people say that this starvation was orchestrated in order to get the people to be weak, so that they could have this power, this authority. And some people are saying, well, they're attempting to do the same thing now. You know, they want totalitarian control, and the food, you know, even with the fertilizer last year, if you remember, they weren't allowing the farmers to use fertilizer and all kinds of things. It's almost like they want starvation now too. They want people to be so desperate for food that they'll just agree with whatever the government says, and they'll just, you know, agree to the digital ID and everything else. So they want absolute control. This is what the communists want. Now, what is communism? So communism appeals to many people. You know, and I think we could say that when we think of the message of salvation, the gospel of salvation, you see, communism is an alternative to the message of salvation. It's a secularist gospel of salvation. Because on paper, theoretically, communism sounds really good. It's a socialist system. It's a system which actually promotes the equality of all human beings, which of course sounds really good. So it's everybody's like equal, and you know, take the money from the rich and divide it amongst the poor. Sounds great. Sounds even like, you know, Robin Hood kind of heroism, right? But in reality, that's not what happens because of fallen human nature. So the problem is that the persons or the individuals who are in positions of authority, they use their position of authority to suppress the people under them and to take for themselves the riches, the wealth, and all the goods. And we just look at, you know, certain communist countries. I mean, look at North Korea. You know, the leader is plump and overweight. Meanwhile, all his citizens are skin and bones, right? It's just this inequality that's there. So it sounds really good, but so it's a socialist kind of system, and it's supposed to sound, you know, compassionate. It's supposed to sound charitable, you know, the equality of all peoples. But it's also an atheistic system. In other words, they want to suppress religion. So in communist countries, they do suppress religion. And in countries where they're striving for communism, such as here in Canada, they also want to suppress religion. So it's an atheistic system. And if you think about it, if it's an atheistic system, then of course they believe in evolution theory and all these things. And basically we're just animals, so we're dispensable. So what if some people die? That's their attitude. Well, they're just human beings. They're just animals. They're rational animals, but they don't have an immaterial soul. They don't have an immortal soul. They're just animals. That's their belief. And if we're just animals, then we're dispensable. We're manipulable. They can do whatever they want with us. And if they claim that, you know, the world is overpopulated and we're causing global warming, and they want to suppress the world populations, and they take, you know, means to do that, unlawful means, you know, sterilizing people through vaccinations and things like that, well, so what? For them, it's okay. In fact, they would be seen as heroes because they're saving the planet. They're saving future generations. This is how they think. So communism, and especially this atheistic aspect of communism, is very, very dangerous. And it has spread throughout the world. And it's very important that we realize this. So the other thing about atheistic communism is, or any form of atheism is, there is no objective moral law. There is no right and wrong. It's not wrong to lie. It's not wrong to cheat. It's society that determines what the laws are. So yes, in general, it's wrong to cheat, it's wrong to lie, but as long as you can get away with it, well, there's no real consequences for eternity, or God is not going to punish you because you don't believe in God. And so they say that society determines what the rules are, what the laws are, what morality is. So in other words, society is evolving. And so previously only a man and a woman could get married. But now it's like, well, that's all changing. Everything is just changing. Morality is changing. This is what they're promoting. And you know, if you follow the World Economic Forum and all these things, it's clear that they're pushing for a one world government, and you know, they said by 2030 everyone will be you will own nothing and you will be happy. And that's kind of the communist ideal, that everybody has equal possessions, everybody's equal, you will own nothing, but you will be happy. How are they going to make us happy? With drugs? They're actually looking for drugs to make us happy, drugs that they can give us. And how are they going to give it to us? In our water supply or through injections or what? Like, who knows? But this is what their plan is, and it's clearly on their website. It's not like a conspiracy theory. This is out in the public. This is out in the open. We need to be aware of these things. So Our Lady of Fatima warned us against the errors of Russia, the errors of communism, atheism, socialism. And this is what's happening around the world, in America even, certainly here in Canada. And what's the antidote to all of this? Well, yes, the church hierarchy need to obey Our Lady of Fatima. They need to consecrate Russia ASAP. But Our Lady of Fatima also said that God wishes to establish devotion to her Immaculate Heart. And she asked for the observance of the first 5 Saturdays of 5 consecutive months, the first Saturdays of 5 consecutive months, to make reparation to the Immaculate Heart for all the sacrileges and outrages being committed against her and against God. So to receive Holy Communion with the intention of making reparation, going to confession, trying to spread devotion to Our Lady of Fatima. And interestingly enough, Sister Lucia, who is the primary visionary amongst the 3 visionaries of Our Lady of Fatima, she said the final battle will be about marriage and the family. Isn't that interesting? So in other words, the definition of marriage, the definition of family has been changed. And unfortunately, it's little children who suffer the most consequences of this, who suffer most from the consequences of all of these things. And people don't realize. And we wonder why there's so many crimes being committed, why these youngsters are so confused they don't even know like what they are, and they go around, you know, these mass shootings, you know, they said that those individuals who did these mass shootings, that they were trans people. And people don't know this. The media doesn't report this. And a lot of them commit suicide. Very high rate of suicide, drug use, because children are not happy. You can't find happiness unless you have love. If you have a broken marriage, a broken home, if your parents divorce, it's very difficult on the children. Yes, sometimes they manage well, but in many cases, they do not. So Satan knows especially who to target, the youngest children. You know, all this sex ed in the schools and all this terrible stuff, like poor children. So the final battle is marriage and the family. But it's really a battle between Satan and Our Lady. So we need to have even more devotion to Our Lady. We need to pray more rosaries. We need to promote devotion to Our Lady. We need to make people aware of the apparitions of Our Lady of Fatima. Let us do what we can to honor Our Lady and to have a great devotion to her Immaculate Heart. Just a final note, interestingly enough, it's the Immaculate Heart of Mary, the pure Immaculate Heart. And Our Lady of Fatima said that more people go to hell for sins of the flesh, in other words, sexual type sins, sins of impurity, in other words, the opposite. And under communism, it's like it's being propagated. So if you're just atheistic, well, what's wrong with exploiting women and sexuality and all these things? So they promote pornography. Very, very unfortunate. So let us pray to Our Lady of Fatima and to her Immaculate Heart. Just a reminder, we have a funeral today for Albert de Souza at 10:30. May his soul and the souls of all the faithful departed through the mercy of God rest in peace. And also a reminder that we have a Marian procession in honor of Our Lady of Fatima this evening. After the 5 p.m. Mass, we will process around the church and around the school while praying the Rosary.